We had left off in a situation where one finds himself at a meeting or within a group of people, and he hears they begin speaking what they shouldn't speak. So he says, he feels himself entrapped within a group of gossipers. And his assessment is that maybe he's able to say something to get them to stop speaking negatively, stop gossiping. There's no question he has an obligation. This whole concept within the context of Torah, I don't meddle in somebody else's life. I mind my own business. Regardless of what people say, he's a man who doesn't mind his own business. But if you feel that your words may make a difference, you have an obligation to say something, to inform your fellow that he's doing the wrong thing. There's an explicit obligation. Inform your fellow that he has to understand what his responsibilities are, what his liabilities are. Besides, it's the mitzvah after recho kamocho. If you see a fellow about to do something which is literally life-threatening himself, you have to immediately intervene to stop him. Here, this is detrimental and almost, as we discussed many times, the multiple transgressions that he's in violation of when he speaks this, and the continuously gossiping, there's multiples of that. Definitely you have to intervene if you have any sense of value for your fellow. We've mentioned many times that every Jew is only a component within the Jewish nation. Each one of us are connected at some level to every other soul. Every Jewish soul is connected to every other soul. All Jewish souls are considered the Jewish network. And if a person infuses the network with positive energy, the network advances and it activates many responses which enrich that network. And if a person does the wrong thing, he's actually diminishes the totality of the network, and this causes us to begin lagging and failing and dysfunctioning and malfunctioning. This is what happens. So the whole concept of love your fellows, you love yourself, because in essence, we're really in one entity. We have an obligation. Inform your fellow. Because again, when you inform your fellow, if somebody's about to come in your home and destroy your home, do you allow him to destroy your home? When somebody else is doing the wrong thing, not only is he doing the wrong for himself, he's undermining your existence. He's affecting your viability and your function. Therefore, you have an obligation. Besides, we're talking about what we speak about for God's glory. It's a desecration of God's will. Besides that, he's actually doing something, infusing you with something which causes you to become ill and sick, and even worse than that. I always mention the Medrash. The Medrash says you have two people in a boat, and a person begins boring a hole under his seat, and his fellow says to him, "What are you doing?" He says, "It's under my seat, not on your seat." He says, "But you realize, once you finish boring that hole, the water comes in, we all go down." It's no different. That's exactly the concept of Hafto Recha Kamocha. We must love our fellows as we love ourselves, because in essence, we're one entity. And therefore, what you do positively, I'm a beneficiary of that. And what you do negatively, I'm a victim of your misbehavior. So there's no such thing as live and let live, because over here it's not let live, because what you do wrong is affecting me negatively, and what you do right is you benefit me, and I'm the beneficiary of that. Many years ago, people say to me, in Israel, there's polarization, the religious, the irreligious, whatever it's the secular in Israel, and the religious parties, today they call them Haredim, but over there, in those days they called the religious parties. They would say, we don't want buses to operate on Shabbos. The bus system should not. So Jews should not violate the Shabbos. We want the theaters closed on Shabbos. We want the restaurants closed on Shabbos. We don't want this mass desecration of Shabbos. What people do in their own homes, we have no control of. But in a public setting, we want all that come to to a standstill. That should not be. So people would say, I'm thinking in the United States, they would say to me, Rabbi, what difference does it make? Why can't they let them live, do what they want, and they'll do what they want? You want to be observant, that's your prerogative. What the other people do, why meddle? Why get involved? Why create all this bad feeling? So I used to say to them, if you have a brother that you love, and he's a drug addict, and he's reaching a level where actually, God forbid, he'll become a criminal, besides destroying his health, because he has to steal and even kill to support his addiction. And eventually he may take his life. Would you do whatever you can to stop him from taking the drugs and put him in a detox center to help him out? You do whatever, you'd speak to him. And if speaking doesn't help, you do whatever measures you have to take to save his life, that's what you're going to do. So our situation over here, if we say and understand the reality of what the Jewish people are, that we're one entity, and every Jew either infuses or detracts or creates a negative energy which actually undermines the function of the system. So when I'm doing film, I'm doing for myself. And everybody, when I do positive or negative, regardless, it goes in either direction. So if you understand that reality, then you put it in a different context. I'm saving him. You don't have to worry about me. I'll take care of myself. If that may be true, but when I save you, I'm saving myself. Because factually, your behavior, the consequence of that is us. I'll give you an example. We speak about communal responsibility. Now, throughout the ages, we find, as the Talmud, we're approaching Tisha B'Av, we're commemorating the destruction of two temples, first and second temple, that were destroyed on the exact same day, hundreds of years apart. And each temple, each Beis Hamikdash was destroyed for a different reason. The first temple was destroyed because they violated 3 cardinal sins. We were in exile for 70 years, came back, and the second temple stood 420 years. It was destroyed by the Romans. Why? Because there's unwarranted hate among Jews themselves. God destroyed the second temple. So regarding the first temple, God originally had said that the devoutly righteous says to the angel of death, when the Jews are going to be taken during the destruction, the devoutly righteous, you should write the letter Tuf, which is the last letter of the alphabet, in the letter black. And the evil who are deserve to be destroyed, you write that letter in red. If you're in the red, means your life will be taken. If you're in the black, you will survive, you live. So the attribute of justice comes to God and says, why? Even the tzaddikim, the devoutly righteous, deserve to be killed. So God says, why? Because they should have intervened and said something when the others were doing the wrong thing. Why did they remain silent? So God responds, and if they would have said something, it wouldn't have helped. So what's the point? So the attribute of justice says, but did they know that? They didn't know that. So therefore, they're no less culpable than the ones who actually did the wrong thing. Even though it wouldn't have made a difference. But that they remained silent is a claim against them, therefore they deserve to be taken. God says if that's the case, the letter red on all their foreheads, they will all be taken. So therefore, even the devoutly righteous were also taken at the time of the destruction of the temple. So again, even if you do the right thing, but how could you sit by, and we've had 2 examples of this. The story of Pinchas, who was the zealot who killed the prince of the tribe of Shimon when he cohabited with the Midianite princess. How do you stand by and watch such a desecration of God's name, not saying a word? Not even though you don't know whether it'll make a difference, but there definitely would have made a difference because it wasn't the vast majority of Jewish people. They could have stopped it. How do you stand by? Well, we're intimidated. What do you mean intimidated? If somebody wants to take your life, are you intimidated? You allow yourself to be led to the slaughter, understanding what that person's action is going to mean? You'll fight to survive. How do you remain silent? So the silence was the claim, and therefore, during the first temple period, even the devoutly righteous. So we speak about communal responsibility. Every Jew is responsible, every other Jew. Let's talk about today. Today, there are 13 million Jews in the world, 15 million, whatever the number is. How many of those Jews even recognize they're Jewish? And even the ones who know they're Jewish, how many of them are affiliated? And even those who are affiliated, To what degree are they affiliated? And even the ones who are very affiliated, how well are they doing within their level of affiliation? So we're talking about, we spoke about the 10 lost tribes were gone, going back 2,000 years ago, more than 2,000 years ago. Now we're talking about that what's left, 80% are non-functional Jews. And within that 20%, how many are actually connected to any degree, doing anything because of their Jewishness? So where are we at? So the handful of Jews we have, if another Jew does the wrong thing, says the wrong thing, and we're able to make a difference by saying a word, by the way, it's not appropriate. For you, it's not appropriate. It's unbecoming. It's almost disgraceful. I'll make it up to you. Whatever it is. If you want, I'll study with you. I'll give you whatever it may be. Not a word. People don't say a word. At some you can't say anything. If you can't, you've tried, you can't, okay. You've done your best. But at least you're not held accountable.